Thank you all for being here this afternoon. I want to welcome all of our guests. This is the Big Frankfort Development Interest Group Candidate Forum. First up, we're going to have our Franklin County attorney candidates that we'll ask some questions for and ask them to respond to. And then after our county attorney candidates are finished with their part, we'll have a brief break, and then we'll ask our county judge executive candidates to come up next. So my name is Rodney Williams. I'm a member of Big Frankfort, and again, appreciate you being here. First thing I want to do is allow each candidate to introduce themselves, give a little background about yourself. You'll have 2 minutes to do that. And Brent, where are you? Okay, Brent, you're going to be my timekeeper for not only the introductions but the responses. Before each question, I will give you the amount of time that you have to respond to those questions. Some of them may be a minute, some of them may be a couple of minutes, et cetera, but those that are more important than others, not more important, but may need some more explanation, we've accounted for that, and we will allow for additional time, okay? And then I guess from an indication standpoint, I guess you can both see Mr. Simpson from where you're sitting, so if you want to stand as they get close to their time, that would be an appreciated indicator. Okay, so we did not flip a coin to see who was go first. So if you don't mind, Max is closest to me, so I'll let you go first, and then we'll switch around from each question as to who responds first. So the first is to give your background, a little information, experience about yourself, and you both have 2 minutes to do so.
Okay. First, I'd like to thank you all for having me out here today. I think it's great that this group has been put together to help forward the economic interest here in Franklin County. My name is Max Comley, as was said earlier. I was born and raised in Frankfort, Kentucky. I went to Franklin County High School, graduated from Franklin County High School in 1997. Upon graduation, I went to Campbellsville University, where I played football at Campbellsville for 4 years, graduated with a degree in history. Upon graduation, I actually came back to Frankfort and taught school for a year. I was a middle school teacher at Bonnet Middle. After that 1 year, I went off to law school at the University of Kentucky while still living in Franklin County, commuted back and forth. Graduated from law school in 2005 and started to work here in Franklin County. My first job as an attorney was with Logan & Gaines. I was with Logan & Gaines up through about, I think it was 2009. After that, I started practicing on my own. I've been a practicing attorney, a partner with Bullock & Kaufman now since 2010. So I understand what it's like to run a small business in Franklin County. I've run a small business in Franklin County. I understand the hardships that come with running a small business, meeting payroll and doing things like that. I also understand the current environment as far as growth in Franklin County. As being a practicing attorney here for the last 17 years, I've seen the ups and downs. I've seen the market go with the real estate, and I've seen a lot of developments shut down because of that. I've seen the long processes that it takes in order to get neighborhoods developed, in order to get commercial properties up and off the ground, and I understand the frustrations that many of you all have with that process.
Okay. Ms. Bennett?
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and thank you, members of DIG. It's great to be here today. I see a lot of friendly faces out there and a lot of folks that I haven't met yet. So for those of you that I have not met, my name is Kate Bennett, and I am a proud Frankfort resident. My family moved here in 1955. My grandparents moved off of Lindsay Avenue and have been here ever since. I am a parishioner, a member of Good Shepherd Catholic Church. That's where my son and I go to church, and where my son will be starting first grade next week. If you want to see me get upset, we can talk about that, but it's something that has been pulling on my heartstrings quite a bit. One of the things that I think is really important today is I want you to get to know me as a person, my background, and why I believe that I'm uniquely qualified for this position, and how I can help interest groups, how I can help DIG, and how that would work, and you know, how that relationship would work. I spent most of my career, I've spent almost about 9 years as a prosecutor. I've prosecuted everything from nuisance violations to death penalty murder cases. That's something that, I'm very passionate about and I've made a career out of. I did, however, spend 3 years in state government, and as part of that, I spent 2 years as the general counsel to the Office of Administrative Services for the Public Protection Cabinet. In that role, my role was to advise and provide legal counsel to both the Cabinet Secretary and to the Governor's Office on matters that affected the Public Protection Cabinet and specifically economic development within those groups that are in the Public Protection Cabinet. I also spent a little less than a year as the Deputy General Counsel of the Labor Cabinet. So if we're talking about workforce development, economic development, and those types of things that were in the Labor Cabinet, that's what I did. One thing we've already talked a little bit about, or it's been touched on today, but I was a member of the Frankfort Franklin County Planning Commission from September of 2018 to early 2022. As part of that role, was sort of the oddball. When you have half of the positions that are appointed by the city and the other half appointed by the county, I was actually appointed by the governor in 2018 and served in that role again until early 2022 when I was replaced. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for those introductions. The first question that we will pose to both candidates, you will have 2 minutes to respond. We'll start with Ms. Bennett on the first question, and I'll read it for you, and then Brent will begin his timer. How will you actively and effectively pursue prosecution of code enforcement violations if elected?
Thank you very much for that question. This is something that's become a cornerstone piece of my campaign, and it's prioritizing property violations, property management violations, and nuisance violations, because I think everyone in this room knows that that is one of the main ways that the county attorney can tangibly affect economic growth here in this city and in this county. As part of that, when we're talking nuisance violations, I think everyone knows, but we're talking about trash, dilapidated buildings, those types of things where things that, and the language in the ordinance is interesting, things that are quote unquote offensive to the senses, right? So what does that mean, right? We're talking about violations of nuisance and property issues that are causing a quote unquote offensive to the senses. As county attorney, I pledge that this will become something that is an absolute priority. This is something that we are going to aggressively prosecute. Now, when I say that, what does that mean to aggressively prosecute? Well, we're going to do what's not happened here in the past 2 decades. There are certain violations, albeit the first violation does have to go before the Board of Code Enforcement, but the second one gets the opportunity to come to the county attorney's office. What does this mean as well? Does this mean that we're going to aggressively prosecute each and every person that's got a gutter hanging off, or they haven't grown their lawn, or their lawn's too high? No, it means when that second violation comes around, it's incumbent upon the county attorney's office and code enforcement to find out why. Why is this happening? Is this an issue where the landlord is not keeping the property up to date? Or is this an issue where the person is disabled or elderly, can't do that? And then that's when we bring in, and this is something I've done throughout my professional and personal career, that's when you bring in grassroots organizations on that side to say, why are these violations happening? And fix them and get them hooked up with these resources. But thank you.
Mr. Comley?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, sir. How will you actively and effectively pursue prosecution of code enforcement violations if elected?
As I said earlier, I was born and raised in Franklin County and have seen over the years the dilapidated state of a lot of buildings in our community. And if elected county attorney, I will actively and aggressively prosecute any code violations. We've got situations in this town where grass is permitted to grow too high, buildings are being dilapidated. I recall several years back there was a house on Shelby Street that had a blue tarp stretched over the roof for years, as opposed to fixing things such as that. Those things need to be fixed. We need to improve our community. And so when these violations are brought to my office by either Eric Cockley, Robert Hewitt, I will investigate all of these situations. And we have a situation here in Franklin County that I've seen over the years in which properties are not being maintained due to people being in a nursing home. due to people being elderly, due to financial reasons. We do need to investigate each one of these situations thoroughly and then prosecute accordingly.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to our second question, and we'll start with Mr. Comley. The question reads, how do you think your experience and qualifications will best serve the citizens of Franklin County as legal counsel for the Franklin County Fiscal Court?
Throughout my law practice here in Franklin County, like I said, I've been practicing here for 17 years. I see a lot of familiar faces in the room who I've provided some work for. I understand in representing individuals that are before the fiscal court how stressful that can be, how time-consuming that can be, and how frustrating that can be. Our firm has done work in this community for a long time regarding development, and the word is out that Franklin County is not pro-growth. The word is out there that when dealing with the fiscal court, it can be a frustrating and long process. And I would like to, be able to change that situation, to be able to advise the court. While I won't be able to vote individually on zone amendments or text amendments, I will be able to counsel the fiscal court on what is set forth in the statute regarding zone amendments, what is required with the regulations to be able to do that, and will, strongly encourage them to vote accordingly, as it is more costly for everyone, including the county, if we have to start appealing these decisions and things such as that. So I believe my experience being here, working with businesses, being in this community for my entire life gives me that, unique set of eyes for this situation.
Ms. Bennett?
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I come over from a bit of a different angle than Mr. Comley, and I think that the angle is this. I spent almost 8 years living in northern Kentucky, in Boone, Kenton, and Campbell County. And as part of that, I was involved in organizations and in state and county government up there, and saw what happened, the possibilities that can happen, and what can happen here in Franklin County. The problem that we have here is what everyone in this room agrees upon. It has been the same old for such a long time. I believe, again, and Max pointed it out exactly correctly, you don't have a vote on fiscal court, but your job is to advise them of the legal implications. And what that means is not only is this legal or not legal, but you have this opportunity to provide, here are this set of options. And meeting with members of the fiscal court and meeting with county officials prior to the actual fiscal court meetings, one, I believe it'll make it go a lot more smoothly. And I have that experience dealing with cabinet secretaries and working with the governor's office, doing that at both the Labor Cabinet and the Public Protection Cabinet. The other thing that I believe makes me uniquely qualified is my time on planning and zoning. I think it was something that I learned very quickly, was a group of folks with, everybody's got different intentions, everyone has different motivations, it's a very interesting group, but all you can do is provide this recommendation to the fiscal court. You provide recommendations. So there's not a lot of teeth behind it, and you can see that in the Duncan Road project. But I think my time on planning and zoning, and also my time spent, working with cabinet secretaries and the governor's office to be able to do that and provide that sort of legal research on a larger scale makes me qualified for this job.
Thank you. Question 3, and we'll start with Ms. Bennett on this one. Have 1 minute for this, so Brent, change that timer to 1 minute instead of 2. The question reads, is there any initiative or effort not currently being done by the county attorney's office that you would like to begin if elected?
Absolutely. The county attorney's office is in charge of enforcing child support they have a cabinet, or they have a contract with the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, but they're tasked with enforcing child support here within our community. We have over $2 million in child support arrears. That's just arrears, not what our current payment schedule is, people that are paying currently, but $2 million last year in uncollected child support. Folks, that's $2 million that could be injected right back into the local economy here. And as county attorney, I believe making priorities, again, we're talking about nuisance and property violations and making that a priority, but day one, the priority is to make this state, and it's doable because I've seen it and I've done it in other offices, and it's doable to be able to make Franklin County the #1 child support enforcement county in the state. That $2 million, again, will stimulate economic development. It's something I feel very passionate about.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Comley.
If elected, one of the things that I would like to see done here in Franklin County, well, actually two things. One is a mental health court here in Franklin County. We have a serious issue with mental health needs here in Franklin County that aren't being addressed. A lot of these individuals are coming in and out of the court system. You see a lot of recidivism with people who have mental health issues. It's putting a strain on the jail. It's putting a strain on the police officers in this community. And so with oversight from a mental health court, I think that would help with that problem. Another thing that I would like to see initiated in Franklin County is a drug court for the district court program. Currently, we have one for circuit court. We do not have one for district court. With these two courts, I think that that would help improve the workforce here in Franklin County as they are addressing those drug needs and those mental health needs to get people back to work quicker and, you know, to stop repeating this cycle of people going in and out of jail because of mental health and drug issues.
Okay. Thank you. That concludes the questions that our committee came up with for the county attorney candidates. Now I would like to open it up to any DIG members or other guests that we have this afternoon here. And if you would like to ask a question, just ask you to raise your hand, let me recognize you, and then once you're recognized, walk up to the microphone here in front of the table where Mr. Comley and Ms. Bennett are sitting. Ms. Walters, come on up. And with come on up. With these questions, Brent, I would ask, we'll do, let's say 45-second response time. And you can direct your question to either candidate, and then the other candidate will also have an opportunity to respond. Go ahead.
Okay, great. This question is basically directed toward Mr. Comley, but Kate can also share in her thoughts. You'd stated you'd grown up here and your family has been here. You've been a lawyer for so long, and now all of a sudden you're saying that your concentration is a health coordinator and a drug court coordinator or drug court. So why the pressing issue now, and why hasn't there been any change in the past little bit underneath of you serving and working here in Franklin County, and why is it taking so long to even get moving? I know that when I work with Mr. Thompson, when he was on the commission, he's mentioned it over the past couple of years that these things are needed here in Franklin County, as I've spoken to other people. So why now all of a sudden is this a huge issue for you, and what do you plan on actually doing about it versus just saying that it's an issue and then the next time we go around we're talking about the same issues?
Okay. I have been practicing law here for 17 years, and throughout that period of time I have referred numerous clients to drug court. I have referred numerous clients for mental health services here in Franklin County. So this is not just a situation where because of an election I'm making statements. These are things that I've done in this county and in other counties for the entirety of my career. And so you ask why I haven't done anything up to this point in time. I've been running a small business in this community for the last 12 years, and I haven't been in a position where if, you know, I can put these things into place. I can make these recommendations. I can talk to people about these things, but to actually get them up and off the ground, I have to be in these positions in order to get that done. So that's the reason.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Bennett?
I agree with the concept of drug court, and just as an anecdote, in 2012, I attended the National Association of Drug Court Professionals and actually began in a small county in Indiana. I helped from the ground up build a drug court. For those of you that don't know about drug courts or specialty courts like drug court and mental health court, which again, I agree with Max wholeheartedly, a district drug court is needed, but it takes a lot to get it up to that point, and you have to have the agreement of both the district court judges and several county officials. I do believe this is something that could have a positive economic impact, again, with the workforce, given the fact that we have an opportunity. Drug courts and mental health courts actually have been statistically shown to decrease recidivism. So if we want to, and again, a huge goal of mine is, again, tangibly decreasing our crime rate. If we want to be able to do that, we do have to start those programs, and is something I've been done from the ground up.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have a question they would like to pose to our candidates? Okay, seeing none, what we will do now is allow for a 30-second closing. Ask you not to necessarily repeat your introduction. Maybe you can summarize your thoughts or what why you believe you're the better candidate for county attorney for Franklin County citizens. But we'll give you 30 seconds for your closing, and Ms. Bennett, we'll begin with you.
Thank you. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak today. I would love afterwards, if we want to have a larger discussion or another discussion, please find me on Facebook, or it's kate-bennett.com. Folks, we have the third highest violent crime rate of any non-metropolitan county in this state, only behind Pulaski and McCracken. And for us to sit here today and think that this does not affect everything, including economic development, I think is short-sighted. We're going to do that, and we're going to focus on that. Again, one last thing I did want to say was, and that I didn't get to speak on, was the Duncan Road project. This actually came up in front of me the first time that I was on Planning and Zoning, and I did vote in favor of it. So thank you again.
Mr. Comley.
Once again, thank you all for having me out here today. I really do appreciate the time that you all have taken to come here today and invite me out to speak with each one of you all. What sets me apart from my opponent, I believe, is my experience. My experience in working in this community for the last 17 years, my 44 years of growing up in this community, and my intention to stay in this community for the rest of my life. And so I know the court system here, I know the judges here, I know the problems that this community faces as far as mental health and addiction. I know the problems this community faces as far as economic development. I've seen them, I've worked with them for the past 17 years. So when we talk about what sets us apart, I believe it's my 17 years of experience working in this community, in addition to my past labor history in this community as well, which I've worked here since I was 14 years old.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you both very much for being with us this afternoon, sharing your ideas, your responses to these particular questions. We as an organization wish you the best of luck in the next several months as we get close to Election Day, and look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you very much.